right? Somebody.
All right, it's another week, another Ask Me Anything happy hour, and we are going live in the midst of the winter storm. That's right. Joe is completely buried. The snow is over his chimney. He's got snow coming in. They're shoveling their chimney. They can't even open their door. They can't go out for food. The birds are dying. The squirrels are frozen. It's quite a mess, and we're here to answer your questions. So with that being said, get your questions ready, and we will be right back after this. Unfortunately, or fortunately, no squirrels were harmed in the making of today's video. All right, and welcome back, everybody. That is an advertisement for a show we do every Wednesday morning called WTF, What the F Happened. You just missed it this morning, but don't miss it next week. But this is indeed Ask Me Anything, the happy hour, where we get to answer all your questions. So we just wrapped up a pretty epic wealth webinar today where we had Chris Kirkpatrick, Caleb Gilliams, we had Devin Burr, we had the whole show. Mr. Snaggy was on. And the questions were fantastic, and we weren't able to answer everybody's questions. So I'm thinking if my freaking text would shut the F up, I'm thinking that we might be able to get to some of those questions on here. So folks, bring them on and let's get going. First question, or actually here, let's go around the block. Steven, talk a little bit about yourself. I know it's kind of like you've done it in the other two shows, but let's keep this thing rolling.
All right, I'm on hour 7 of Zoom calls for the day, so I get a little loopy right now. So I'm just going to give my weekly disclaimer. Anything that comes out of my mouth from this point forward is all in fun and games, and do not take it too seriously. But with that being said, life is good. It's a beautiful Wednesday here in South Florida. We have had some awesome shows today, starting with What the F Happened this morning, which there's so much wild news right now and so much going on in the world and so much to think about, because if we don't think about it and prepare for it and plan for it, like 90% of people out there, it's going to hit us. We're not going to be expecting it. We're going to lose everything. We're going to not be able to retire. We're going to lose a bunch of our savings, whatever the case might be. So now is the time to prepare, because it's coming. You don't have to know why it's coming or what's going on in the world. Just know it's coming and be prepared for it. So start controlling your wealth. Where is your cash flow going? Where are your retirement dollars? What are they investing? Are they sitting and losing to inflation? Are they moving? Are they making more? Are they in guaranteed vehicles? Are we taking advantage of tax strategies? Because taxes, 40 something, what is the debt right now? 34 trillion, 43 trillion, so many trillions, I don't even know anymore in debt. We got to pay for it somehow. Taxes are going to keep going up. So let's control that. And wealth webinar today was awesome. It's good to see Caleb and Chris Kirkpatrick, awesome guys. Then had a nice fun little Zoom with our team, just talking IBC and some different things that different clients are talking about. And now I'm here with you guys. So it's been a beautiful day. And with that said, maybe I'll become a Bills fan because my Dolphins got knocked out. My Steelers got knocked out Monday. I don't know. Maybe I'll go with the Bucks. Maybe I'll go with the Bills. Stay tuned to find out. But that's what I got right now.
Well, if Josh Allen plays another game like we just did, man, I don't know. Mahomes, eat your heart out. So we'll move over to Jason. Have at it.
Hello from chilly 41-degree Orlando, Florida. It's pretty cold down here in Florida, isn't it, Steven? I had to put on a sweatshirt this morning getting up, but no, awesome day. The wealth webinar today was awesome. I thought I was sharing this with Snaggy prior to you guys jumping in. What I was really impressed with is you're talking about some of the most knowledgeable and best practitioners of IBC in the country and coming together to conspire together, right? There was not it's a collaboration. Everyone's supporting each other. You guys are promoting each other's stuff, the books, and it's because there is no competition in the space. The possibilities are infinite. We're helping thousands of people. There's hundreds of thousands and millions of people that need to learn this to interrupt the financial literacy being taught, right? So super blessed to be here. Happy to be here. It was really fun watching you guys. Actually kept it on the whole time. in the background, listening, commenting, and it was good stuff. So down to that guy down there that's angry about a lot of things, but he's got some good news too. What's up, Mr. Joe?
The collaboration was awesome today on the webinar. Your 41 degrees I would love to have. I'm stuck in my house because I'm 20 minutes south of Chris, 20 minutes north of Shauna. So the bookends got a foot of snow, and me, the one in the middle, I have a total of 5 to 6 feet right now. So you can't even see my Escalade. I haven't gone outside to clear it, and I don't plan on it today. I'm going to sit back with my root beer, and I'm going to answer a few calls today and answer a few questions for people that I didn't get a chance to. Ariana is already school closed tomorrow, so guess what? Another day inside. So
There's
off to
only
that.
one question I have for you, Joe. Did you also run out of beer? Because I think I heard you say root beer. Are you out of beer?
It's a special kind, though. It's a hard root beer.
Oh, I never heard of such a thing. All right. I learn something new every day. We're always learning. We now have spiked or hard root beer.
Now, you should know I would never run out.
All right, Craig.
Hey, I do have one request of Joe. He showed me a picture earlier of the Escalade. He backed it into the driveway, so if he can get into it, I'd like to see you just bust through that snowdrift. That'd be such a cool video just to see the snow flying off that thing. So if you could do that for us, that'd be awesome. But just a little weather report out here in Colorado. We've been cold. And in the news, oh yeah, well, let's stop here. So you see the little mirror sticking out?
Wait, Craig, that's your house?
That's my house, Chris. That's the Escalade.
Wait, is that the mirror of your Escalade?
That is correct.
Oh.
Yes.
Show him the picture.
Oh. Holy.
Now
smokes.
do you see what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't get that at your house.
No.
No.
I thought
so
that was
I-
Craig's
you guys
house.
live from
Wow,
each other.
Colorado's getting some snow.
Mailbox.
We can't tell.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to add there is out here in Colorado, we've been really cold, and two things about that. The other night, our weather station that we have just to have some sensors around the house, tell us how cold it is. They all said LL, and the only thing I could come up with was it's colder than hell. But anyway, go to find out. That's actually a signal on the sensor if it can't measure because it's so cold. But we were somewhere down negative 11, 15. But the one interesting thing they had in the news, since it's been so cold out here, people can't charge their Teslas. They're not staying charged.
Imagine that. You don't say. Because you know what? If you go out and you start your gas-powered vehicle, preferably a V8 gas-powered vehicle, guess what happens when it's cold? The engine loves it. Loves it.
It whines a little bit. And then it just gets going. It's chugging along.
Mm-hmm.
But also, just to wrap up,
we should push the date up, Craig. The dude should move the date up on the electric car production instead of being, 30 or 2030, 30% of the cars. We should just take that down. 2025, I might as well just roll out all the electric cars. No sense in driving when it's snowy out. It's dangerous. You should scare people and make them stay inside when there's 2 inches of snow and it's negative 15 out. Gosh, you could die out there. How did our ancestors ever make it? How did they live in Alaska? In the animals? Are there going to be any animals left after this storm?
My ancestors
that's why
came
you
across the
live in
Bering
your
Strait.
house.
Can you imagine? For real, that came across escaping Germany. Can you imagine that? We are soft today. We should talk about that for an hour.
So soft.
How
Bunch
soft
of
we
wind.
are.
Who won the Iowa caucus?
Speaking of that, we have this local channel on Facebook, like most communities do, and someone said, "Hey, I'm moving to Castle Rock. That's where I live. I'm moving to Castle Rock next week. See, it's going to be really cold. Do we have to go to work when it's that cold?" And I thought, you got to be kidding me.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you what.
Steve, before we all go down the Arctic tube, we should probably get into some of these awesome questions.
All right.
Where should we
Were there
start?
any pre-submitted?
The girls would have those, so I'm not sure. Shauna
Chris
Bell,
brought
Hannah,
a lot of questions
Scooby.
with him, right? Didn't you bring a lot of questions with you?
I mean, Daniel's got a good question.
Oh, yeah, let me start.
Can you assist non-U.S. residents?
Yeah.
We got to ask you one more question
Canada.
first.
Wait, what'd you say?
So we got to ask one more question. Where do you live? Like where at non-US? Are you in Canada? Because that's a yes. If not, then we can show. Chris has this amazing video that'll show you what you can do with the process without whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, if you're not in North America, then you can't get the policy, but you can still apply the process. And I got a video, how to use IBC outside North America. Just look that up on my YouTube channel. Get you where you need to be.
Actually, Maggie, if you can post it, I'll put it in our private channel. I've got the link here if you want to share it out.
So this is, I thought, a cool question. T came up with it. So T coming in from YouTube, he said, what is your expert advice? So I'm going to kick this over to Joe because he's the foodie. What is your expert advice on food trucks? For example, at local music venues, guaranteed customers, please be honest. Thank you for your feedback. Joe, do you ever frequent food trucks?
I haven't. But to be honest with you, on Shark Tank, there's a whole bunch of venues that start off with food trucks, and these people want to move into brick and mortar. Most of the time, the sharks will shut that down. They will invest because they have the concept of the food truck to get another food truck and another food truck and expand their vicinity, if you will. But to actually move into like a brick and mortar, they are against that. So if T can get a food truck and actually get a route and then expand on that, I can see definite growth that way.
Yeah,
And
I would add to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things I see out where we live, we have a bunch of breweries in our town. They don't serve food. So what they do is they partner with a food truck. So if you can come up with some sort of situation like that, food trucks just kind of cycle through. And I also see food trucks showing up at corporate locations to, serve the people for lunch as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Steven, you guys got a lot of food trucks in Florida?
A lot of them, yeah. They're really popular here. I actually have a friend that just opened one, Tacos and More, and they're doing really well with it so far. But yeah, there's food truck nights where everybody gets together usually once a month in various towns up and down the coast, and you'll see them really all over the place. Lots of taco trucks.
Jason?
I think it's a great idea.
There's tons of food trucks down here. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the only comment I'd have on food trucks is, in Buffalo in the summer, that's all there is down at the venues. And it seems like they all do well. I always like to pick on Lloyd's because Lloyd's started as a food truck, which is a street taco place. And then they moved in and now they've got a chain of restaurants, which are wildly popular. So if you do it right, I think it can be really good. The only suggestion I'd give you with food trucks is, change where your money goes first. Finance all your food trucks and the equipment through your own banking system. And then instead of paying a bank loan, make the monthly payments back to your bank. And that way, even if your food truck fails, at least you get all the money back and then you're on to the next thing.
Like it.
All right. B-Rad. What is it?
Founding Fathers Financial Freedom webinar every Thursday, 3 p.m. Building one tomorrow that the wealthy have more choices. So come check that out. Come see why the wealthy have more choices and what it would be like for you to have more choices.
Oh my God, I got to do this one. Go ahead, Steven.
Do you have to be wealthy? Yeah.
No, you do not have to be wealthy, but if you want to know what it feels like and how you get there, we'll make that happen.
All right, cool. Yeah, I love this one. B-Rad has a great idea. Joe's needs to start flipping some snow plows.
Yeah.
He's investing in semis and all these other forklifts. Like, dude, why aren't you financing snow plows? You have so many problems. Or maybe even like finance the development of a snow plow that plows your driveway.
We'll work on it. We'll figure something out.
All right. What
Poking
else
them.
we got?
Right?
I told this one to Chris last night. He said, "Nope, the show must go on."
He did too. He messaged me because I told him everything's shut down. We got driving bans. He's like, "Oh, should we postpone the shows?" I said, "No freaking way. I'll set up in the basement here." You know, unfortunately, I'm on another antibiotic for this. I figured it out. They call it the 100-day cough. You literally cough for 100 days and cough up stuff. So I can't even enjoy the fine bourbons that Joe got me, and I got a fridge full of beer, which Joe can't even get here to help me drink. It's just like I got a real problem here, and it's an alcohol abuse problem because the alcohol is all just sitting, doing nothing, and has been for a long freaking time. So if anyone knows how to solve that problem, let me know.
But that last bottle that I got you, that was
Yummy.
we got to remember that one.
Got to get healthy first.
People got some good ideas on here today. We got flipping snow plows. We got investment opportunity, build a food truck park, lots of rents without much construction. Very similar to
Holy cow, wait, hold on. I got to pair that up. Steven, you know, at Family Mastermind, or I'm sorry, it's Boardrooms. You haven't seen it. Rorik and Jason, they're doing those mini home developments where they're literally building communities of mini homes, like tiny homes, and they're like a luxury tiny home, and it's a whole community with dog parks and everything. They need to incorporate the food truck model into that whole thing. That would work. Wow. I mean, because listen, in a tiny home, you don't really have a big kitchen to cook meals and have friends over. So you bring food trucks in, you make a whole food truck parking. Man, we're onto something here. And then Joe can finance the food trucks and charge, 30% interest to the food truckies. And if they don't pay him, he just takes the food truck.
I like it.
Yeah, man. See,
I'm not a fan of those mini house development stuff.
No.
Investing rules, no like and understand. I don't like that idea at all. Like just from a purely fundamental level, like who wants to live in a little friggin'? Ugh. All right, that's all I gotta say.
Oh my God, these are
Hey,
hilarious.
you can go the opposite way too, though, Stephen.
We got some haters hating on us for sending the weather down there. As Joe, like
That
we're
one's
northern.
Thank you,
You
Carlos.
need to come get your weather. It's drunk in my yard acting stupid. Go get your weather.
I don't want it.
Oh, and then Kathy here is saying, same thing. Like she wants you to take the weather back too, because she said the water was froze for 2 days here in Central Texas.
You know what?
Which I find comical because the water here, the water here freezes every year. It's called ice. We actually ice skate on it. There's hockey. There's all sorts of really cool things that happen when water freezes. We make ice cubes. You can do them in all shapes and sizes. For bourbon, we prefer the big chunky cubes. So Kathy, I embrace that. That's called ice. It's a pretty cool thing. And I know you guys haven't had it in Texas, but hey, there's a first for everything.
I think everybody should experience what we experience.
No, we all make choices.
Joe, we knew we were going to have this happen here. Like, how could you not know? Like, the lake was 40 degrees in December. Like, there's dudes surfing the lakes in December. It was 40 degrees. Like, of course we're going to get bombarded. What is this?
Bombarded.
And
it's
Joe,
a room for snow.
You must be kidding me. Well, they don't make those for Buffalo. That's for Texans. Like, look at Joe. When does your driveway ever look like that?
In the first half hour of the snowfall.
Is that for real? That's the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life. All it does is like it's almost looks like it's a blower. It just blows snow around, makes it look like, oh look, honey, look at all the snow winding, and oh my God, that is the dumbest thing.
As soon as I open
look at that one. That one's like the Buffalo version. It's a big
Buffalo version, dude.
$7,500.
Look at the size of that
Buffalo
thing.
version. That wouldn't make it out any doorway. It wouldn't even make it across the. You couldn't snowplow anything with that here.
Whatever happened? Just paying a high school kid $20 $20 to plow it for you.
We're being very informative today, guys. We're really changing a lot of.
If I knew that I would be able to close my garage door once I opened it, I would open it for everybody on this call. But I might not be able to close it, so I can't open it. I got about 8 foot of snow drifts in front of my garage right now. I know I do. I stand at the end with Carhartts on and my shovel, and Katina, I say, go ahead. And then she hits the button and the garage door opens and all you see is snow, snow, snow until it gets to right about here. And then it stops. And then there's still another drift that goes on this side so that I have to take it and knock it down. Oh, it's awesome. Come
Take
on,
video.
Jason.
Well, hey,
Come on
listen,
now.
you know, speaking of choices, I mean, you could move to Hawaii and then you still got a problem there. It's
Gotta wear
60
a
degrees
jacket.
and people are having to put jackets on in
Yeah.
Hawaii. I mean, what are those, you know, what are Hawaiians doing? Like, I've never seen a Hawaiian in a jacket. I can't even imagine what that
here
would
to save us.
I'm sure Hawaiians have worn a jacket before.
You know what?
We're
I'd
off the
love to see?
rails. We're talking about weather and Roombas for snow and
Oh my God.
drifts. And we're
It's been a
out
very productive AMA. We're answering all sorts of amazing questions from people.
I would love to be in
About-
Florida when it gets
No.
so cold that the iguanas just fall off the tree. I would love to see that.
Is that
Do we
one of
have
those
any-
snow blowers?
It is a Roomba.
Show Sean
All right,
the Roomba for snow.
You might want to pick up from here and handle the questions because we're butchering them.
I know where are we?
Start with Mark. People actually wear jackets in Hawaii.
Okay. I'm scrolling.
The mid 60s. We wear shorts and t-shirts.
Oh my God, 60s summer here. I don't even know what
Yeah.
people are talking about.
Yeah, here we
Maybe a
go.
hoodie at night.
You got one?
Yeah, here we go. So mom's 75, husband's 39, kids 2 have no policies, ages 17 and 18 and 20-year-old in college. How to decide who to start a policy on first?
So probably your husband, whoever the breadwinner is. So whoever brings home the bacon for the family, for the most part, if you will, that would be the person you start with always, because you want to make sure the coverage is on the income producer. If there's 2 income producers, maybe split it, do one on husband, wife. But you could almost, this is kind of an interesting one, you know, because with mom being 75, you could almost do that, but you'd have to understand that that policy would be a legacy policy because at 75, it's not going to be real rich in cash value early on. I mean, didn't we just put one in at 80 years old recently? Didn't we just set a record for the oldest client now? You guys see that?
Sandra said she backdated her to 70.
I think it was 79.
79.
79.
Yeah.
So, but that was backdated. So 79. So maybe look at mom if she's healthy to get the legacy in place. That's probably going to be a good start, but then definitely the one that brings the income in.
I think I like Chris where you were going with that. I think you start off with the breadwinner for protection of the family, right? And then you maybe go to the legacy piece or to yourself next, so your family's equally protected, and then go, to your mom and then to the kids. I think that's the order I would look at that from a family legacy and protection standpoint.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that was going to be my question is like why she didn't add herself in the mix there of like who to start a policy on first. Because I would say self.
Well, there's also, the way Nelson Nash kind of talked about legacy-based policies is he talked about it in terms of a forest and how they grew trees in the forest. So his perspective was like your mom buy policies on the grandchildren, and then you and your husband would have policies for yourself. So you could just keep that generation jumping going. So when your mom graduates, that could fund, or backfill policies with the kids or with yourselves. But just think about the grandparent buying policies for the grandchildren and then the parents buying policies for themselves. Someday when your kids have children, then maybe you buy policies on them and just keep the family structure going.
I like that.
Love it.
I had a question based on this too, so with say the husband and the wife, right, both have policies, and then the grandmother goes to buy, well, it would be the same way, right? It's always going to be based off of the parents, what the kids can qualify for, right? Even if the parents don't have coverage, it's still going to be based off the parents. So there's that variable to kind of think of. Is that how you guys would think through that as well?
I have one that completes the loop. If the husband and the wife get the policies, grandma would get policies on the kids. Then we would borrow from the kids' policies and put that back on the grandma to create the legacy, because grandma, figure 15, 20 years, we'll utilize the money that runs through the child's policies, and then we're running into college and stuff. It might just.
I like
I
that.
like
I wish we had a whiteboard. Jason?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, this is going to sound a bit morbid, but can you think of what the return on that ROI would be?
Amazing. Totally amazing. I mean,
that's just cycle of life.
it's how these questions just pop up, and it's just a stamp of a finger inside. I just was looking at the circle.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a whiteboard right there. We should definitely do a video on that.
Yeah.
Joe, you can draw that on your wall. I mean, you got plenty of room back there.
Can you just say that to me one more time, because it sounded really good, but I feel like I forgot. So the
husband and wife would get a policy
each. Mm-hmm.
Grandma gets policy on 2 kids, borrow from the kids' policies, and fund grandma's policy, because it won't be really a banking policy for grandma.
Yeah, be more like an actual. Yeah, that's more of life insurance for the actual use of life insurance.
Exactly. So it's going to be a legacy policy. So grandma, depending on the years and the kids, that would be the full circle.
And then just because if you missed today's Wealth Wednesday webinar, it actually inspired me to submit another policy for myself today. Because one of the things that everybody was talking about is like, don't take your insurability for granted. So sometimes in this one, it's almost like who gets the policy on it first. But I mean, your husband's 39. I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to be 36 in like a couple of weeks or something like that. And I just know that I don't want to take my insurability for granted. So I would say just move it priority, just not for one, but for all. Because you never know. And you don't know if you are insurable, like, until you take the tests and all that stuff. So I would almost even suggest, even if the end goal is to only start one policy, what Joe said is submit applications for the husband and wife, and then just know for a fact, like, if one of you gets denied, I would want to know that. Like, because what if you don't know that? I don't know that. I don't want to like unravel too much, but that's what I'm thinking. All right.
I like it.
All right. Rudy W is saying, I just received a One America policy and soon a HELOC at 9%. Does it still make sense to run HELOC money through another policy to lend on PMC?
He said another.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at, there's a lot of factors that come into that one. Off the cuff, Joe, I would say no, because I'd rather just lend direct from the HELOC, take the interest from the HELOC. Let's say you lend from the HELOC and you make 15%, 15 minus 9, it's a nice spread. Take that and fund the second policy or the next policy. That's how I would do it.
It's mathematically, because he said another. He's not probably doing an all-in-one. So if he were to take the HELOC and put it directly into an investment, why wouldn't you run that through the policy to make money twice? If it's therefore giving you a spread and he knows the spread. You see what I mean? Because
we just need a spreadsheet for that. That's all.
You have to make sure that it's mathematical. If it's going to be mathematically, but he did say another policy. So that's the only reason why I didn't say no right from the get-go. I had a guy today that wanted to use $30,000 in credit card, 0% interest. Dump that into the policy.
Oh, hell no.
and then borrow from the policy. And I'm like, wait a minute, no. Because that would create a double black hole. And we don't want a double black hole. So I said, absolutely not, because I don't want to borrow money to create more money. So then that would be the difference. And then I actually said, it's different if you have a HELOC and you're going to put that HELOC into an investment, then sure, you might as well run it through just to make money twice. But nothing else was a variable of that. See what I mean? So in this question, I would 98% go with yes. But we would have to know the spread and the numbers. Craig? Concur?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, part of it is going to depend on what the rest of the picture looks like. And does it make sense just to take the HELOC money and go directly to the investment, create, once, like Chris was saying, once that money's being created from the investment, could that fund the policy? So there's a few moving pieces here, but yeah, I'd want to kind of look at the bigger picture. But
So
all of these are viable approaches.
So 2 words, it depends, right? That's our usual answer. It depends, more information. And I'll say keeping it simple too, just to kind of take it all back. I love the creativity. So many people that I talk to are super creative as well with their finances, but we really teach how to change one thing. Where does your surplus money go first? Surplus is savings. Surplus is money you're already paying yourself. If you haven't developed discipline yet, then we have a different conversation, because you're going to set yourself up for failure over the long term. So just kind of putting that out there is something to think about with Rudy's situation, right? And everybody's situation, right? That I think I talked to that credit card guy somewhere out Midwest, right, Joe? I think I talked to him about a month ago. Same scenario. He was doing the same thing, borrowing and getting a lot of cash out of the credit cards and wanting to put it in a policy. I was like, no way. No way.
Yeah, and if people want to do that, there's other people that would probably sell you that policy, but it's not going to be this team.
No, I get a little anxious when people start using credit cards and for velocity and, but it's a 0% for how long? How long is that investment? What happens if it goes to 28 and you don't get the principal back? Now you're paying too much money. At least with a HELOC, it's kind of more stable. It's I don't know. I've been doing that for 14 years.
Yeah, just like on the wealth webinar today, and I thought Chris Kirkpatrick did a really good job of talking about going, you may go to a bank to finance something, but you've got the cash value in your policy. And it's really about the control that you have on those funds. So if you needed to, you could backfill, or you could pull money out of the policy. So I think the other thing that's important in the conversation with Rudy is what kind of HELOC, because if you had a mortgage and it was a second lien HELOC, that kind of changes the picture a bit, as opposed to if we're talking about a first lien HELOC where everything's in a one-pot system, as Joe called it, the one-pot system. So there's a lot of different factors, but hopefully we've given you a few things to think about there.
Get on a call with one of us or we'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Yep. There's a few more really good questions too that'll spark up some more. So what's a direct recognition loan versus an indirect recognition loan?
They see the policy or the loan happen, or they don't.
Yeah, it's kind of just like the name says, a direct recognition, which becomes just like Penn Mutual, Guardian. I'm going to not get them all, but like those, what they do is when you take a loan from the policy, the insurance company recognizes the loan being taken, which reduces the amount of cash value they're going to pay dividends on. So it's basically just it diminishes your compounding, doesn't get rid of it, but it diminishes your compounding effect. A non-direct, just like it sounds, they don't recognize the loan. That would be One America, Lafayette, back in the day, or Mass Mutual, when Mass Mutual allowed it. Securities Mutual, or New York Life. Those are all non-direct recognitions. Those companies do not recognize the loan. So if you had $100,000 in a policy, you took $90,000 out, a non-direct would still pay interest and dividends on the $100,000, where a direct would pay you dividends or we'll just focus on dividends on a reduced amount because they recognize the loan. So that's the biggest factor. There's a couple things behind the surface on direct recognitions that kind of makes it slightly better than what I just said. Like they'll reduce the loan interest rate on it to kind of offset it. But we've done the math, and non-direct always trumps direct in every comparison we've done. I'm not going to say that's always the case, but that's how it's been for us.
That makes a lot of sense.
One of the other ways I look at that too, Chris, you're talking about some of the crediting they do on the loans. To me, it's just a bunch of mathematical gymnastics, and if we can remove some of that confusion from the equation, I just would prefer to have non-direct recognition, just simple, and without having to jump through a bunch of hoops and figure out 2 of these and 3 of those and move the shells around. But
Precisely. I have one Yeah,
Go
I have
ahead.
one, and I did it because I live in New York, and it's owned by my family trust. So it's a little different scenario, and I have not taken a loan. You know, it's like one of those policies that I'm building up because I'm going to use it to finance the bathroom remodel in our master bath. That was the purpose of the policy.
Okay, Drew is asking, do they do anything from a credit perspective relative to getting a policy?
Soft pull, I think not. And this, hopefully someone else knows this. I wish Hannah was on. I do believe they pull a soft pull.
I believe it's a soft pull. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, but I know for a fact that not everybody gets a soft pull pulled on them. So there's something in the notes or somewhere that when they pull it up, I don't know if it's a motor vehicle check they do or something that initiates them to do a soft pull on credit, because I know that they don't always do that.
Yeah, interesting.
It's probably related. I imagine, I want to get clarity on this, but I imagine it's related to the amount of coverage that's being applied for as well, for them to look into that, because it's the amount of risk that they're looking to mitigate. So
that actually makes a lot of sense, you know, and they want to see, is this person credit worthy, you know, to be able to actually maintain this policy? Because what a lot of people don't know, Jason, you do, but they don't know that insurance companies, especially the ones we work with, giant mutually owned insurance companies, they lose money on a whole life for the first 2 to 4 years. So it's a losing proposition for the insurance company in the first couple of years. So if somebody has bad credit and they don't think they're going to be able to maintain the policy, then the insurance company sometimes will not issue the policy because they know it's just it's a loss. So insurance companies, this is why you don't hear a lot of advertising about whole life. This is why you hear them only pushing IUL and term. It's because they're profitable in the beginning, because all the risk is on the client. Whole life, all the risk is on the insurance company. It's a sharing. Basically, you're participating with a insurance company. You are technically like an owner. So therefore, in the early years of a whole life, they don't make money. The insurance company makes money like fine wine over time on a whole life. They share in that risk, or not the risk. They share in those profits with you. Where an IUL or a UL or a VUL or a term policy, out of the gate, profitable because of surrender charges. That insurance company knows if you cancel that policy, don't pay for that policy, they got a surrender charge, they got paid, all their fees are up front. It's just the thing, man, it just pisses me off. And I'm getting down that IUL rabbit hole again. It's just like, I can't understand why simple logic doesn't steer people the right direction as to why they should stay away from IULs.
Let's stay there for one more second, just because I think that's powerful. Like what Devin talked about on the wealth webinar, like 3 years, $18,000, $54,000 into an IUL, and he had like, what was it, $6,000 or $8,000 in surrender. Like that's all the cash value that was there. But I think what you said, Chris, was powerful. If you look at everything that's wrong financially in America, it's all about everyone else giving up control. So Wall Street can be wealthy. The banks can be wealthy. You're not going to be wealthy if you keep following that pattern. And so what you just said, Chris, the only thing that was going through my mind the whole time, of course, IULs, VULs, all the other UL kind of products are profitable, term profitable. Right away. So that is going to be advertised. That's going to be pushed because that's pulling in profits, but it's not telling people the truth about how they can take back autonomy.
Speaking of the truth, I wish somebody would tell Doug Andrews to stop saying that banks are the number one purchasers of permanent whole life, but yet he sells IULs, which is misleading because he's an IUL guy saying banks are the number one purchasers of life and permanent. He calls it permanent life insurance. True, but people, because of what he does, are associating that with banks buying IULs. There's not a bank in this country, probably in the world, that buys IUL, but they'll sell that shit to you. But
that's a challenge. Put that challenge out there right now.
I do want to just interrupt real quick though, and give a shout out to our first donation. We've never received a donation of actual dollars through YouTube. So to the team, thank you guys so much. Every single week, every single webinar, every single video, always such a wealth of knowledge. So that was a little time sensitive. So I did just want to bring that up. So sorry,
I had no idea that was even possible. Thank you so much. What an honor. My God,
awesome.
we got our first tip, guys.
Amazing. Okay, so Jay is saying, would opening policies for different purposes at the same time make sense? One for debt and one for retirement. I would say yes. Well, because debt.
I would say yes, because I would design, to be honest with you, I would design both of those designs. These two talked about, debt and retirement, just totally different. So I would say absolutely that would make sense.
Okay.
Stephen, you're saying no, you would do them all as one?
I like it. I don't see the reason having two policies. You're managing, you're keeping care of, you fees. I mean, they both have their own costs. Like it's not a lot, but it's still something. I don't see the benefit. I've gone through this in my head 100 times. I just don't see the benefit of starting two policies for different purposes.
Would you rather have 11 policies, Chris, or one?
Now, if there's multiple people involved, that's different, like a husband, wife, or kids. What?
Yeah, I guess now that Stephen puts it in perspective, I would almost say, I mean, listen, like having as many as I do, it's a pain in the ass having a lot of different policies. You know, it's just the sheer nature of how long I've been doing it and just capitalizing different systems not because I didn't want just one, but because different circumstances over time are different, right? So I agree. Actually, now for Jay, if we were designing one, we could design one policy that would tackle both, because then if you pay the debt off with the policy, you recapture the debt load, you're already funding your retirement with that recaptured interest. I mean, at a rate of
automatically
15, 20%.
And you could, depending on where Jay's at.
My previous answer, and I will side with Stephen's answer.
I think depending on where Jay's at too, right? You can design something that's built for the long term. I mean, we've gone over policies that are 60-40s, 50-50s that are just overfunded to the point that they're cash trees by year 2 or 3. So depending on like where someone is financially and where we're meeting and what their problems are, we can solve both your 90-day short-term problem, 30-day problem, and your 10-year, 20-year vision as well, all together, right? So I wouldn't know why, unless you're protecting multiple people, why would you split it into multiple policies?
See?
Yeah, and I kind of think of this as almost a timeline. You know, and Chris, you already talked about this piece of it, but they could be both. So from a timeline, if you have debt, you're going to pay the debt off with the policy. Then maybe you have another 10 or 15 years before you retire. So in that gap, what could you do? Well, you could buy some forklifts. You could private lend. You could do something to build more cash and build more money coming into your system. And that will start juicing your retirement income as well. So, you know, this one thing is going to be used over and over again. We just keep reuse, recycle.
What is your guys's time frame? Because like I'm, you know, in the process of starting another policy for myself, and then like so long that it gets approved and whatever, I'll get another one for my daughter. But the reason why I'm getting another policy is because like I'm making more money now than I did when I started my first policy. So like I have more resources. I know that it's important to do that. Like I know, like, so Chris and Stephen, like how much time gap, or even you, Craig, like when were those times when you started implementing those other banks, you know, like in your life? Rather than this question kind of made it seem like you'd start two on the same day. It maybe, you know, it's like this as opposed to like two on the same day.
I'll start answering first. I know you asked Chris and Craig, but when I started looking at having multiple, like having 4 policies, it was they solved a problem each time. And my thinking kept changing, which was really interesting. Like I started the first one thinking, okay, I've recaptured all this debt. I'm going to pay back the loan right away. I'm going to pay it back. I'm going to reduce that simple interest. And then I said, wait a minute, I'm 5 times more protected than my wife. Right. And so as I recaptured that money and it was sitting there in my segregated account, it gave me, you know, I started the second policy on her. The third one was on my youngest son. The last one was because I gave Uncle Sam 20 grand for paying payroll taxes when I wasn't sure if I was going to get approved for an S Corp. And when I got approved, all of a sudden I had this big bill and I had the money sitting there to pay tax. I'm like, well, I don't want Uncle Sam to have all this money and not earn any money on this money. So I started a 4th one. Right. So I think they each solved additional things. And I'm also feeling like I'm almost 50. So how long will I get approved? How long will I be healthy?
Yeah.
How long will my family be healthy? So I think you have age variables. I think you have financial variables. I think you have different, you know, I bet you. And then timing, like Joe said to me the first time, he's like, oh, that's perfect timing, Jay. Like you start yours here and you're starting Patty's this much further. That gives you like 3-4 months in between. So if you need to change your mode of payments or change this and that, you have more choices. You have more flexibility. So those are some of the considerations I had during my journey of starting them. And Joe's kind of point out that makes sense to spread them out 3-6 months so you have time. So I'd love to hear what older practitioners have thoughts on this too.
Shauna, for me, it was just the same thing as you. You nailed it. It was just I
have more
money. I was making more money. I had the capacity to put more money into my banking system. And
Yeah, like why
how
wouldn't
I
you?
noticed that is quite simply, you just look at your bank account and all of a sudden, like at the end of a couple months, you got too much money in your bank. You're like, you bastards are using my money. And then you start, it's quite simple for me. It's like, I don't want the banks to use my money anymore.
Yeah.
I want to say it's a feeling, as crazy as it sounds.
I had got that feeling today. I was like,
It's a feeling. And I am actually getting that feeling again.
Were you on today's webinar?
I only have,
Oh,
but it's
go.
a biggie. So
Wait.
Well,
so I think it's time. I think it's time to do another one.
all right.
yeah, and I
Jake,
think
We're
the
getting
other
close.
way we can approach this is, what are you trying to accomplish ultimately? Because I've been really digging into Nelson Nash's equipment financing model. I've been working with a client, and he just dove in deep on this, so we're going together on this one. But it's so neat in what Nelson Nash taught in that example, which was he's trying to build enough financing for he's trying to build enough capital for the financing needs. So in this equipment financing, it's all about buying these logging trucks at $52,000 a pop. And so he funds a policy for 4 years, and then he switches the dividends to pay the base. He starts another policy, and he uses that one to fund the truck and overpay it to put premium in. So I'm like, that is beautiful. So every 4 years he's starting a new policy, but he's doing that because he has need for financing. Does that mean we rubber stamp everybody has a policy for 4 years starting that one? No, it's just in this example,
he was ironically.
What's that?
It's me too.
That is, I spent 4 years, and I'm
Me
like,
too.
I need
It's
another.
the need for financing. It's the need for capital to do the things you want to do. If you don't have a need for financing, then why would you start another policy outside of just store your wealth if you had too much sitting in a bank? So everybody's going to get that feeling of when the right time to do another policy is. And I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it.
So Jay followed up with a little bit more of his question. Like, he said 2 policies for 2 reasons, like one for debt and one for retirement. He did kind of give us a little bit more insight. So 100,000 in debt and then 20 years to retirement. And I think what you guys mentioned earlier with these 2 figures and this knowledge now, you can use that. You can accomplish both of those with the same policy.
And I actually think, and like I said, initially I was thinking from a design standpoint, but you could design, like you could do is 25, 75, 35, 65 for a design like this. They would accomplish both goals, but like $100,000 in debt, to me, that's just rain and money. Because like, how much money are you giving away in that debt? Imagine if all those interest rates that you're paying on all that debt were now your retirement returns, so you're doubling down, because if you pay the debt off, recapture all the money that you're paying to the debtors right now, and that becomes your technically your return for your retirement. I mean, 20 years is going to be a nice little time frame to build that up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change what Steven said. I would say definitely do it with one.
Carlos is asking a good question and something we kind of hit on in concept with the credit card, but can you get a policy on the kids, borrow from their policy to fund another policy that turns into a LIRP, life insurance retirement plan, and then
reading Power of Zero,
and then use the death benefit to repay and fully fund the children's policies? So basically,
from the surface, I don't like it. I just don't. I don't like borrowing money from one policy to fund another policy. I just think I know it's talked about. It's in lots of the books out there. It's stuff that we've even taught in prior years. But I just don't think it's the best use of funds. It's almost like you're just trying to race to get more policies, and you're taking loans from one to start another. I mean, unless there's a need for more capacity to hold more money in future years, I think that's a flawed plan.
I think he was going off the circle that we were saying, to take the kids' policies to fund grandma's death benefit. But there was a reason for that one.
Maybe the LIRP is throwing me off.
Well, it is something that from the surface I don't like either, Chris.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, Joe. Yeah, you're right, dude.
You see
I'm
what
sorry,
I mean?
Shauna. He's right, because right there, use the death benefit. When he said that, I'm thinking, when we always say take a loan, you're taking a loan from the death benefit. I think he's saying, the LERP is throwing me off. So to fund another policy that turns into a LERP, but let's just call that,
which would be like grandma, like we talked about earlier.
Grandma, then grandma and grandpa graduate, and then use that money to repay the kids' policies and then fully fund more. Oh, yeah.
I say yes to that. But
well, if that's what he's saying, then 100%. The LERP just kind of throws me off a little.
That's kind of what we were saying the circle before.
We'll talk, Carlos. Carlos and I have been texting back and forth, so we'll talk. We talked about kids' policies earlier.
Yeah, because I think that's pretty interesting.
We'll help you get that figured out.
Yeah, and
I think
just to today's thing, and I know that the world is crazy, and there's all sorts of things that would make us unsurable, I'm sure, like between the water and whatever else they're trying to do to us here. So I kind of do think, like, I know, like, it's a race to get more policies. Like, part of me is just really, I'm just feeling really called to feeling like we all need death benefits. Like, I know we don't talk about that, but like, I just feel like more inclined that we're not promised tomorrow, no matter if we're a kid or grandma or in the middle. So I don't know.
Well, and part of the scary part is, Sean, as you're talking about, we need more death benefit, and it will create a legacy of family, but we need to be also educating the people that will be the receiving parties of that death benefit, because the worst thing we can do is build this. It ends up in the lap of someone that's just going to go destroy themselves with it. So we need to keep educating our families. We need to keep educating the people that will be, benefiting from what we're building here. So
I agree so much.
The trustee is important, but the junior trustee is more important.
I think also that's an important part of, like, practicing being a good banker now too, because when you're succeeding, like, everybody asks, like, what are you doing differently? You know what I mean? And that's your opportunity to share that.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy is saying, I heard about Quantum RE on a video of Chris's and want to know if that's company is still on good referral standing, still in good referral standing. I would think so. I haven't heard anything about Quantum RE. I don't know exactly who's worked with them. Like, do you guys know anybody who has used?
Yeah, I know a bunch of people that have. Nobody said anything bad. I mean, if it fits the bill, if it's something that's a need for someone, I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I would say it works for, fewer people than it, or what would I say? Yeah, I would say it's a niche product that fits the bill for some people.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said anything bad about it.
So yeah, if you're interested, I would still call them and find out. And then Nagy, I'm gonna wait. Who is typing?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was about to tell Nagy. I know you are. All right, never mind.
Is there a reason why she wouldn't qualify for a regular HELOC?
Well,
would be the question.
I think the only benefit or something that draws people to the Quantum RE thing is that you ultimately you don't have to pay anything, right? Like you don't have to worry about the interest rates of the HELOCs. You don't have to worry about making payments. It's really, to my understanding, Chris, it's just like a chunk of money that you kind of worry about when in 8-10 years or whatever, when you sell your house. The one reason I think it wouldn't work for someone like me is the way I've grown up is people live in their houses till they freaking die. So like, to me, it like just doesn't jive with me. So like, we don't move. We just hunker down and stay. So it's like not a thing.
Hunker down. I like that. Hunker down.
You guys move around. I don't.
Oh, I'm not going to stay in this snow. No.
Full circle.
Oh, we're back
1 hour to get there. Oh, Joe.
Ariana's in 8th grade. When she's on that stage walking across, you're going to hear beep, beep, beep.
Oh my God.
I'm out of here.
All right. 2025 day. I am 65-year-old and my I'm 65 years old. Am I too old to start infinite banking to help fund retirement and make sure my wife is financially secure when I am no longer here?
Quick answer, no.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, you're not too old. I mean, when do you plan to retire? I guess with one question. What other retirement savings do you have, or what other money would you live on? When that day comes would be two. But the answer to the general question is definitely not too old.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the beautiful things that you could do, and it depends on your cash flow, but if you had qualified accounts and you're drawing on those and you don't necessarily need that money, you could start using that as premium into your life insurance policy. So you're moving out of a taxable environment to a non-taxable environment, and the death benefit's going to be a huge multiplier. So it could just be a way to shift some of those dollars over to something that's going to be a much larger benefit to your family.
That's such a great strategy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to give B-Rad, which I'm sure your name's Brad, but I love B-Rad. He said, team, insert the 90-minute video here. So I'm going to put the 90-minute video and our round robin link in the chat. That's how good our people are. They're reminding us to tell you guys to book calls with us.
Not bad. Good job, Brad.
Where do I go for one of these specially designed policies?
Eric is saying in Des Moines, Iowa, just found Chris. Is there an agent in this area to get in contact with, please? We've been fiscally responsible for 30 years and just keep losing at the money game. What?
Yeah, I mean, all of us, we're all licensed in your town and any other town in this country. We hold licenses in every single state in this country. So, if you're in Iowa, it doesn't matter where you're at. Indianapolis, if you're in Utah or Colorado, or until February 5th, if you're in Puerto Rico, we can help you. So I'm letting that license go.
Yeah, that's why I laughed.
I know.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
$1,600 renewal.
Yeah.
I didn't even make that much in commission and all the PR stuff that we did.
So in the chats, there's this thing that says, here's where you can book a call with our BYOB team. And there is a link there. But yeah, like Chris said, it's not that we have somebody in Iowa, but Jason and Joe and Chris and Steven and Craig, they all have a license there. So they would be able to help you for sure.
Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
There he is. Welcome back, Ned.
They just have the election on Monday, right?
Yes, they sure did.
Who won that Iowa?
Not the dude.
Mr.
Oh, you need to know. Anyway,
Uncle Donnie.
Mr.
All right.
Trump walked away with it.
I remember this, Justin. It was Caleb. It was actually a couple people. I mean, that's the beauty of having a panel like that. Not everybody has the same thought process through everything. You got to remember, first off, Justin, right now we're coming through a period of time where we've had historically low interest rates for a long time. So there's lots of people locked into mortgages, at 2, 3, 4%, low interest rates. I'm going to give you my take, which is going to be different than Caleb's, which is going to be different than Chris K's, which is going to be different than just about anyone's. But after all your other debts are paid off, and after you've made some other loans or things, and you've got a well-rounded portfolio in your banking system that's producing cash flow, I am one that does like paying off the mortgage on the house because of the velocity of interest you're losing to a primary mortgage. So a lot of people, and a lot of it is really just because of perception. It's very difficult to explain to an audience of 160 some people that your mortgage that is only 3% fixed for 3% is actually awful. And you aren't paying 3%. In the first 7 years, you're probably paying more like 20 or 30% because you're paying all the interest up front to the bank. So the velocity is what you're losing to, not the interest rate, the velocity of interest. So for me, I am paying my mortgage off right now. My house, we've lived here a little over 2 years, and my house will be fully paid off inside of like the next 2.5, 3 years, I think is the math we did. And like after that, I'll have a fully paid up dead rock, which Joe would say I got tons of money sitting in the walls, which I'll figure out how to extract that money, even if I got to just jackhammer into the concrete. I'll get the money.
I'm working on it.
So Joe's working on it. But it's tricky just because my house is owned by a family trust. It's not tricky for any other reason other than a trust owns my house. But I think I think number one, well, I'm a little older. I don't know how old you are, Justin, but back in, the younger days, it was a real honor for a family to pay off a house. It was a big deal to own your house. And I sometimes like to study the past, study the 50s. I think it was a great time where people actually took pride in ownership and owning their homes instead of a bank owning it. We live in different times. And a lot of people are going to kind of come from that mindset. Caleb's a lot younger, and he's going to say, hey, I don't care if my house is ever paid off. I'm going to just move into a bigger house and a bigger house and a bigger house. And I'm always going to have a mortgage. And as long as interest rates are low, that's okay. But for me, I'm just all about the math, and Craig and Joe are the same way. When you run the math on a mortgage, there is never, ever going to be a time that it's not going to make sense to pay that sucker off if you have the financial means to. But it should never be a first priority, I think, because it's such a big overtaking that you lose so many little opportunities to make your money work for you just because you're trying to tackle the elephant when you should just be going out and get yourself a mouse or two if you're super hungry, or, like little rodents. And then when you're full, well, don't harm any elephants, but you go elephant hunting.
I'm not going to go long, but once the house is paid for or the mortgage is swallowed up by the HELOC, you take that money in the HELOC, you lend that out to make more money, but with a snap of a finger, you just say, give me my principal back, put it back in the HELOC, and your house is still paid off.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer. Why not use the money in the 2x4s when you can? Yep. And if you don't want to do it no more, just put it back in and say, I'm done.
I'm so excited to learn and implement this from Mr. Joe K, Mr. HELOC, coming up here in a month. So
almost time, right?
Yeah, I just text you right now. When is the time? But I'm just saying it right here too. I'm excited to learn this because Chris was not talking about like this 2-3 months ago when he first had the conversation about the velocity of money through the HELOC with his mom, right? With your mom's HELOC for your home and paying it off and how that was going to work. And here right now, what Caleb was saying today, I thought it was really, it makes you really expand your mind and think about money. Because he's like, listen, you're using, like, if it's $1,500 today for your mortgage, your money 20 years from now, when you're paying $1,500, is worth a lot less. So it's still $1,500. So like that, I thought was super interesting. You guys are just talking about straight up math. Like he was talking about money being worth less tomorrow than it is today, right? Yeah. And he was
so pay that mortgage with that less. Like you're already locked in at that mortgage. Right. I actually do get that.
And Justin was mentioning Christy Fantastic. Exactly. I mean, she's the one that got me thinking about it. But what you got to remember, and Jason, it was interesting how you said, a year ago I was saying something different than I am now. But really, my tune's always been the same. It's just at a certain point, you just don't want to talk about something because you can't get through to people. You can't get them to see the light. And then it's just a conversation that goes nowhere, that you're just wasting time. Because, Stephen or anyone that's done the 90-minute presentation, in almost all our old 90-minute presentations, we literally had 2 slides that showed how beneficial it was to pay off a mortgage because of the velocity of money and all the benefits of how much interest you're giving away. And I've taken it out of a lot of my presentations just because it gets people going the wrong place. And then all of a sudden they think we're trying to tell them, pay your house off. And it's just easier like to do the path we do now. But I always, since I learned it from Brent, really, when I saw how mortgages really worked, I've always thought you should pay them off, but it just shouldn't be a primary goal because it's just a huge thing to take on. Plus, your financial advisor is going to fight you on it. Your CPA is going to fight you on it. Your family is going to fight you on it. You're just fighting an uphill battle because everybody's going to tell you that's so stupid because it's only 3%. Why would you pay off a 3% mortgage with a 5% loan from the insurance company? Are these guys idiots? You shouldn't listen to them anymore. See what I'm saying?
And I want to agree.
Is not, so you know who your client is.
I want to agree with Chris. The way that he just said that, by taking extra money and sticking it into the principal and giving control back to the bank, makes no sense. In order for it to make sense, you have to incorporate that into a HELOC, which is a one-pot system that you can still go in and take the money out and still use it. Just by taking money and throwing it at the principal, that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you start to see how a mortgage really works, you want to be on the other side of the equation. And so, Kevin Shortell, who's someone that frequents the network, he's taught us how to buy mortgage notes. And so we'll have a payment coming to us from some mortgage note we bought, and maybe the person's payment is $700 a month. and $40 goes to principal, and the rest of it's all ours in interest.
Mhm.
So it's just a matter of understanding what's going on and what side of the equation you want to be on. Well, I'd rather be on the equation of getting, the 650 of interest versus the other way around of giving 650 of interest.
I agree.
And then what Joe was talking about, mortgages, different mortgages out there, the all-in-one, the first lien HELOC, it's flat out a game changer. And I've been doing it for about 3 years now. I wish I would have known about it 20 years ago. So I saw that Justin said he was 27. I'm like, if you start implementing these things, oh my gosh, by the time you're in your 40s, it's just going to be monstrous.
I've been hand-holding people for the last year and a half, and I have been taking people with 25, 27-year mortgages, and we're on schedule to pay those off in 3.5 years. Why wouldn't you? Just by putting your money to work. Money not in motion. Shauna?
Doesn't matter. What is the tagline supposed to be so I can yell it back at you?
Lazy money. It's lazy cash.
Money not in motion does not
Lazy
move.
Okay, does that make okay,
All right. Well, with that being said, we are way over our time, so I am going to cut it off there. Thank you all for joining us for another week of Ask Me Anything. Shauna, thanks for jumping in and rounding us up, so we weren't just talking about, I don't even know.
I didn't realize we went over so much.
Snow. We're talking about snow.
Robo snow blowers.
We got another snow day. While I was on this call, I got to realize we had a snow day.
Joe's excited for
Snow
that.
day number
Mine's been canceled since 10
332 in
o'clock.
Buffalo, New York. With that being said, folks, thanks for joining us for another week of Ask Me Anything Happy Hour. We will see you probably tomorrow and the next day, and have a good week.